Family, welcome back to Rooted&Rising. If you've been here for the last few episodes, you already know we've been climbing together, talking about purpose, consistency, brotherhood, and accountability. But today, we're taking the next step. We're talking about elevation, what it means to turn goals into growth and dream into reality. And joining me today is somebody who embodies that better than anyone I know, my wife, MJ. She's a retired Navy chief who served our great country for 21 years. She's an amazing wife, a loving mother, and after retirement, she chased her dream and became a professional hairstylist. Her journey is a perfect example of elevation, the courage to start over, redefine yourself, and still rise. So welcome back, finally on Rooted&Rising.
Thank you. It feels good to be here. I love watching you record from behind the scenes, taking pictures, help promoting your label as best I can. So it's good to be on this side of the camera for once.
Yeah, this one's going to be special. All right, so let's kick this off, right? Every dream starts as a whisper, that small tug in your spirit that says there's more for you. But as we all know, life gets a little loud, and sometimes the world pulls you in 100 different directions. And sometimes that dream can get buried under duty, obligation, or fear. For both of us, the military gave us structure, but it also kept us in a certain lane for a long ass time. Do you remember when you first started thinking about getting out of the Navy? What came after the Navy?
Yeah. So as you know, before I joined the military, I was very much into hair, very much into fashion, living in New York. 9/11 kind of skewed my dream at that time because I felt like I had a greater purpose. I always stayed a part of the fashion world as best as I can while being in the military. But obviously, without a license, it's kind of hard to do those things. Um, but it was always in the back of my head that this was something that I wanted to do. It was just finding the courage and the right, counterpart that would give me the opportunity to fulfill my dream.
Okay. So when did you realize you wanted to do hair full time? And what was, or rather, was that dream always there for you even while you were in the Navy?
Um, yes and no. There are a few points while I was in the Navy that um, I didn't think I could ever go back to school to do hair full time. I thought I was going to have, a pretty structured government 9 to 5 kind of job. Um, but again, that was where my life was leading in that current time. I felt like I had to be the breadwinner. I had to be on grind 24/7. And if I wasn't, I was going to be taking away from my children and from my family. But I would say shortly after meeting you and our relationship kind of evolving and becoming what it was, you know, as you know, as our friendship, not even like us being married, I realized that I was strong enough to go back to school, that I could continue to pursue a passion that I've always had with doing hair and just making people feel good in whatever sense that looks like.
Okay. Cool. So I was the light to your candle, huh?
Ah, sure. If that's what you want to say.
I love that because what you just said shows that the seed was planted long before the transition. You were already walking in your gift. You just hadn't named it yet. So what advice would you give to someone who feels like they have a dream but doesn't know where to start? And how do you keep that dream alive when life gets heavy or the environment doesn't support it necessarily?
Um, Something that I would always tell the girls when we were in school, well, girls and guys, when I was back in hair school was, if this is something that you're passionate in, you're not always going to take the same road or the same path that everybody else does. Sometimes it's okay to take the road less traveled. um like we had a lot of people in the school that didn't necessarily want to do women's hair, but they wanted to be a barber. And in the state of Virginia there aren't very many barber schools, so it was just reminding them what was their main focus, what was their purpose of being there, and holding on to that and not letting all the noise around them kind of make it fade away. Like you have to stay focused on what that vision is, regardless what it looks like. And it has a lot to do with like that village that you carry with you, that circle of trust that you have. um so I mean, don't ever let someone tell you that your dreams are stupid, or that you're never going to achieve the dreams or the goals that you have set for yourself, because the only person that can make or break those goals and those decisions is you. So if you don't have that circle, or that village of trust, then maybe you need to look at the people that are around you, because they should be having your back, not holding you back. I mean, unless your ideal job is, I want to be a drug dealer. It's like, oh, okay, well, unless you're going to work for a pharmaceutical company, like I don't really think that that's the best decision for you to make. But like something like this, like I want to be a writer, I want to be a musician, I want to do hair for a living. Um, Find someone that's going to inspire you and push you to keep moving forward.
Yeah, I would agree. I would even say, um, like find someone who's who views your dreams, or I don't want to say views, but your dreams are just as important to them.
Yeah, like find somebody that values your dreams as much as you do.
Yeah, that's
You
what
know,
I'm saying.
find someone who's going to challenge you, so that when you're in those bad days, when you get in that bad headspace, that they can, have the real raw uncut conversation with you and be like, okay, so what is it that's slowing you down, because I noticed that you're not yourself. What is it that's derailing you from getting to where you want to be? Because sometimes it could just be you in your own head, and not necessarily some like catastrophic outside coming in, like that's going to try and take this away from you.
Yeah, I would agree. And that's kind of like when I was thinking about the podcast, right?
Hmm.
Well, I remember when I first brought it up, it was like, "Hey, I want to do a podcast," um, and but I don't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I just know I want to do a podcast, and it originally, the idea of a podcast came from all the way back when I was in high school, because I wanted to work at the radio station.
Hmm.
And when I was in high school, it was my senior year. My driver's ed instructor, his name was Mr. Ed. He asked me to do commercials on his radio station. And my mom said no. And, he, and then, like, from then, and like being in the Navy, a lot of people used to tell me all the time, like, man, you have a really good radio voice. Like, you would be a good, like, broadcaster, or, maybe you should look at doing audiobooks or something. So then, as I got closer to transitioning out of the Navy, and this podcast, like the world of podcasting started to blow up, right? Everybody was,
Everybody's podcasting.
yeah. I used to joke and say, I'm going to do a podcast reading Dr. Seuss books.
I remember that, yeah.
And then there's a couple people that I knew that was like, oh, I would listen to that. I play it for my kids and stuff like that.
That one fish, two fish.
But then it was like, I just started thinking about, I guess, like, I don't say the misinformation that's out there when it comes to transitioning and two, like, I felt like a lot of the podcasts that were popular at the time all talked about the same shit.
Yeah.
Politics, religion, relationships, right? And then I felt like all the military veteran podcasts talked about the same shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have this, I got that. My big toe looks funny, and
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't like the direction this branch is going, and look at these stupid uniforms and stuff like that. I just wanted to be different in a sense of I'm gonna tell my story, but I don't want to make it just about me in the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
Like somebody else somewhere is probably going through a struggle. May not be exactly what my struggle was or is, but they could probably relate to it and it give them some hope or a different perspective on how to move through that situation.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the, like anytime I feel like you have any doubt in your podcast and what you're doing here, but then you tell me, like, oh, I want to do like veterans advocacy, or, like I want to be able to reach out to, you know, um, minority kids and, community involvement. Like you are doing it. Like this is your dream and you are doing it. You are reaching out to veterans, you're reaching out to, young minority men, and hopefully young minority women, to like give them just even like the smallest bit of hope that, somebody is out there listening, somebody out there cares. I mean, you had Freddie on here who's an amazing father, an amazing, man that like he he's like the epitome of what everyone wants to be. He has his doctorate. He's a very successful minority man. And especially now in the living situation that we're in this wild, crazy world that we have right now, like those are the kind of people that like I look up to, because it's like, well, damn, if they could go through all this struggle in life and still be successful, still come out on top, then I can do it too. And I know how frustrated you get sometimes, and how sometimes you feel like you're just like banging your head against the wall and you're just in that repetitive motion. But I really do feel like this podcast and what you are doing is reaching out and touching more people and affecting more people than you think. So, to add on to my advice from earlier, I would say patience is key.
I like that. I'll put that in my tool bag.
Yeah, put that in your pocket.
So having a dream is the first step, but then comes the real work. Turning your vision into plan. You can't hit a target you can't see. And for me, that meant asking hard questions after retirement. What do I want? Why do I want it? And what's it going to take to get there? When you left the industry, or love it, when you left the Navy and decided to step into the beauty industry, um, what did that planning phase look like for you?
I did a lot of research on different schools. not just here in the Virginia area, but also in the Carolinas, because um, fortunately, with reciprocity, I could get my license in one of two locations and still be able to, fulfill my need to be able to do hair. So looking into school was really important, making sure that I knew for sure that my family was going to be taken care of, financially, from an emotional standpoint, and then knowing that I wasn't going to be here maybe physically all the time. And even when I was physically here, I might not be mentally here. Um, just making sure that there was a clear understanding of what you and my family, what our family's expectations were of me and what my expectations were of you to help keep me going. So I didn't quit.
Okay. And I hit the mark. Just gonna put that out there.
You did a great job.
And I was a supportive husband. I'm so awesome.
So amazing.
So, was it scary to start from scratch after 20 years of a uniform?
Absolutely. Yeah, like it's one thing to, you know, play dress up or whatever with your friends that are in the military with you and maybe don't necessarily care what their hair turns out like, to, the full-fledged, like, all right, I'm going to do this, and I'm putting Paul Mitchell's name on it because that's the school that I ended up going to. So it was very scary. It was also very scary because after 2 decades in the military, you kind of forget how to talk to people. So every once in a while, I have to, reel myself back in and be like, you're not a chief anymore. You can't snap on somebody like you normally would if they do or say something that pissed you off, or wasn't how you would have done it. It's still a very hard transition to be like, not everybody is going to do everything the same way that you do, and you have to be okay to give them that freedom to do it.
Yeah, it was a good answer. It's a good answer.
I'm smart.
I liked it. Now, I feel like there was layers to the answer in the sense of like, you said some shit that people probably don't think about when they're in the situation, right? And I feel like sometimes it happens a lot when you're in the process of, I want to chase my dreams or my goals, right?
Hmm.
You kind of get this tunnel vision, and I think having a structure of the military, right,
Hmm.
and the like decision making skills you learn from the military kind of gives you a cheat code for chasing. You know what I mean? Like, so I feel like you kind of had a leg up as opposed to outside of the fact that you live life already, right?
Yeah.
But it's like I just remember hearing you talk about when you were at hair school that you had people of all ages in your class.
Yeah.
There were people straight out of high school. There were people who were same age as you, maybe a little bit older,
Hmm.
right? Not that much younger, or whatever. But it's like their decision making process of, I want to graduate to be a professional,
Hmm.
but they couldn't see, like they would let the distractions
Yeah.
throw them off their path. But I think it was because their decision making skills were lacking, right? They didn't, not necessarily, I'm not going to say they didn't have a good plan, but I think it was, they didn't have good direction.
Yeah, they let too much of the the other stuff, the fluff, kind of get in their way. And I do think that, you know, if it wasn't if it if it wasn't for the Navy, I may not have been as successful in hair school because I was able to compartmentalize and just kind of block that extra noise out and stay focused on what my goals were. And then two, because yeah, like a lot of them were much younger than me. Like I knew like this was my goal, this was my vision, this was how I was going to continue to feed and take care of my family. Even though I know that I don't need to have a full-time job, but it's nice to be able to not have to worry about, can I put food on the table tonight? Am I going to be able to keep the lights on in the house? Are we going to be behind on the mortgage? My mom and dad have always pushed me to believe that like you should never be solely like reliant on someone else. Like when you're in a marriage, when you're in a relationship, you're in a partnership, and you can't just sit back and let the other person suffer. Like you have to be that buddy check so that, like how we do our pulse checks all the time, like where are you at percentage wise? If you're going to be 20% today, then maybe I have to be 80%. Maybe you're only 1% today and I've got to be 99%, or, the vice versa. Like, lately, I mean, if we're keeping it real and honest, lately I haven't, my percentage has been significantly lower as far as like where my mindset's been at. So you have, without complaint, without hesitation, you have been that extra percentage to keep us whole. And that, like, you need people in your circle that can do that.
I agree. And you're welcome.
Thanks.
But I remember when you were going through um, hair school, I remember you would come home with your creepy ass mannequin heads and you would practice the hairstyles or doing different color treatments. But you did all that while still making sure the house ran smoothly and showing up for everybody else. That's the part that people don't see. The grind behind the glow up. Because elevation takes sacrifice. It's not overnight, it's brick by brick. What sacrifices surprised you the most? And what did you learn about yourself in that process?
um I think the biggest things to take away from me going to school and just this whole journey is that I'm not in control, and that I have to be okay with not being in control, if that makes sense. Like I couldn't control the schedule for schooling. I couldn't control the lessons that were taught. I couldn't control the pace in which we were being taught. I had to take it for what it was, listen to the instructors, you know, take what they had, shout out to Rudy and Kelly, take what they had to give me and then piecemeal it with what I already knew, and kind of like what made sense for my learning pattern, because I'm a very spatial learner. And some of the instructors, it's not that they couldn't teach to what made sense to me. I just had to learn how to take the information that was given to me and then be able to interpret it in a way that I can use it moving forward. But then not only that, being that I was much older than a lot of the other people in the school, and I had, some background already in hair, I had a lot of these young guys that were coming to me, kind of like being in the military. I had these young guys coming to me like, hey, I'm not understanding how to do this formulation. I'm not understanding how to do this haircut. Like, I don't get it. And being able to take what I had learned before and taking what I was able to break down and keep it at its most basic, you know, like this is how you do it. I was able to help other people. So that kept me going with my sense of purpose. Um, because I was still doing what I wanted to do at its core. Like I was helping people. I wasn't just doing hair. I was a mentor. I was an advisor. I was someone that people looked up to.
Okay. So now we're about to talk about one of my favorite topics,
Awesome.
very near and dear to my heart, manifestation. Because this is where your faith and your focus meet. People hear the word and think it's some mystical thing, but it's really about alignment. Your thoughts, your energy, your actions, all pointing in the same direction.
Um, yeah, I mean, manifestation is it's a weird it is I don't want to say it's a weird word, but it is a weird thought process because if you tell yourself like, oh well, I'm doing this and I'm doing that and I don't understand why all the stars aren't aligning for me and this that and the third, like that's not really how it works. Like you have to put in the effort and you have to maintain positivity through it, because if you're not giving yourself positive thoughts, you're not going to have positive results. If you're constantly, like self doubting or self guessing yourself, but you're like, but I'm doing all the things right. It's like, but are you? Because you're doing all that negative self talk. Like you have to be your own hype person at the same time.
I concur. And uh, you touched on it a little bit, but the motto we have in our household is positive thoughts produce positive results.
Yes.
If you think it, you start to believe it. When you believe it, you act on it, and that's how things shift. And to me, that's so real because when I was fighting cancer, I had to manifest my healing. I had to speak life over myself every day, even when my body didn't feel strong. I knew my spirit had to be because manifestation is faith in motion. You can't manifest what you're afraid to claim. When you were building your new career, how did positive thinking shape results?
Um, Really, gonna give you so much credit here. Um, Really, it was, like you and Julius and, like our little family, you guys, specifically you, you wouldn't let me stay in my head too long. Like, yeah, you would let me have a bad day or a bad moment or whatever, but like you wouldn't, you never really let me like stay in that moment. Like you would help me remember all the good that I was doing at the same time. And just because I was having a tough day, like that wasn't the end all be all. So it, you have to, even if you think you suck at something, you still have to keep pushing forward, because that's just like, you're always going to be your worst critic. And if other people around you are still there for you and they're the ones still fighting for you, then you still have more fight in you.
I like that. Did you ever have moments? Well, I mean, never, because you already answered that question. So many to answer. Um, yeah, just you kind of like
Crushed it.
took the rug from underneath me.
Sorry.
We was gonna go somewhere, but you already went there. You beat me to the destination, and that's fine. So
You're welcome.
what I would like is wherever anybody who's listening right now, wherever you are, I want you to speak these words with us right now. I am capable. I am deserving. I am elevating. And I want you to say it until it becomes your default setting.
Can we do it together?
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. I am
I'm
capable.
capable.
I am deserving. I am elevating. Say that 5 times in the mirror when you wake up in the morning or you brush your teeth.
Yes, T.
All right. Now let's dig into what elevation really means. To me, it's not about chasing status, it's about transformation. It's when you raise your standards, your habits, and your environment. When you started, um, you know, growing your clientele and trying to build your brand, so to speak, right? Did everyone around you understand your goals?
No, because when I first started, I wanted to be more of like a barber, not necessarily the traditional hairstylist. And that was really because, I wanted to give myself a new challenge. Like I knew that I could do women's hair with my eyes closed, color it cut, you know. Um might not be the best, but I'm definitely not the worst. I know that I still have a lot of growing to do, and I'm very thankful of the home that I'm at now, Look Salon Day Spa Chesapeake. Um, but yeah, like I wanted to be different, and a lot of people looked at me like I was crazy, like, "Oh, what do you mean you want to be a female barber? Females can't be barbers." But I still tried. Granted, I failed.
Time
Um,
out. Time out. You didn't fail.
you knew I was going to say that.
Yeah, but you didn't fail. It's just
I had to take the road less traveled
no.
to realize that wasn't the place for me to be in my career at that time. But now I have some of the most like faithful male clients that come and see me at the salon. And I have a very strong group of women that are there to mentor me, guide me, and keep pushing me forward. So no, I didn't fail at the barber shop.
You just weren't going in the right
I
direction.
just wasn't going in the direction that I needed to go for me.
Correct.
Shout out to the parlor.
It's a good barbershop.
Great barbershop. Still take the boys there.
So during all of that season,
Mhm.
right? Did you lose or gain people? And if so, how did you handle that emotionally?
Um, so not I'm gonna try and say this in the most heartfelt. I'm not trying to be a meanie weenie person. There are always gonna be people that are gonna say, like, oh yeah, I'll come visit you at the salon. I'll be your number one fan. I'll do this for you. I'll do that for you. Um, but some of my most faithful clients are people that I have had never met until I started working at that salon. And that's not to say that like the friends that I do have aren't still cheering for me and being supportive for me, but I have way more, and I use friends in a very loose term because, as you know, like unless you're in my family circle of trust, like friends is kind of like we're an associate. We're just gonna call it what it is. Um, but yeah, like some of the groups of people that cheer me on the most are people that have never met me until they sat in my chair. and people that were with me from being in the military, before the military, after the military, in school with me, all the hype, they're nowhere to be found. And I get it. Like life's, and you have your own brand and your own, um, things that challenges that you have to get through yourself. But, it's still one of those things like I'm still gonna be part of your cheering squad, and I'm still gonna, like your post and share your post if I think, it's something good that like I also want my fan base to be attracted to. But yeah, it's real disheartening sometimes when, people who you think are going to be your ride or die, they're usually the first ones to turn their back on you. So it's tough.
Yeah, that's that was deep. It's deep. Something I've learned is that not everyone is meant to go with you,
Mhm.
and that's okay. Some people love the old version of you because it makes them comfortable. And one thing that I always say is elevation requires separation.
Mhm.
It can be painful sometimes, but I do believe it's necessary. Every version of me that has elevated had to release something. Maybe an old mindset, an old circle, or sometimes just comfort itself. What old habits or fears did you have to release to become the woman you are now? And how do you stay grounded while still pushing to rise?
Um, I I think I kind of touched on it earlier, like being in the military, especially being a chief. Excuse me. I'm trying to think of the right words. You know, um, I don't want to say like everybody looked up to you and it was like the expectation and like you had to be the end all be all and the know it all and the subject matter expert. Um, but one of the things that I had to let go of, and again, shout out to the look. Um, I had to stop telling myself that I had to be the belly button, that I had to be the end all be all for the answer, that I had to figure out everything by myself. Um, that is still something that I struggle with because I feel like if I'm not doing a haircut properly, or I'm not doing a formulation for a color properly, or even a color placement properly, that I'm failing the rest of the women around me, the rest of my team, the rest of my family. Um, so that is probably the one biggest thing that I have to let go of. It's I'm not failing anyone. I'm failing if I stay quiet and I just try and like figure it out on my own. That's how I'm failing. I'm not failing if I reach out to like Christy or Natalia or any of those girls and being like, hey, like I'm really struggling right now. This color or whatever is just not like color theory is not color theory. I need you to help me figure this out because I'm about to ruin this woman's hair. And thank God I have not done that yet, but I'm sure it's coming. Um, but like that is definitely the biggest bad I don't even want to call it bad habit. But that's probably the biggest habit that I've ever had to let go of, was that I don't need to be the one with all the answers, and that I need to be okay with asking for help.
Yeah, I would say, you know, with that, elevation isn't just going higher, it's going deeper, learning who you are when everything familiar falls away. And when we talk about elevation, it always comes back to legacy. Legacy isn't just what you leave, it's who you live while you're here.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, our children, they watch what we're doing every day. You know, granted, we have taken two completely different career paths. Still at its core, they're still watching us. The boys and Angelina and Liam, you know, watched you battle cancer from start to finish and then continue on into this, remission. And, they still get scared every time there's a doctor's appointment. They get worried. Um, that, like, is it going to come back? But the fact that you don't let all the health scares like stop you from still like pushing forward and moving on and holding them accountable, like that's huge. Like being able to show your children, maybe not their path to righteousness, but like your path to righteousness, and showing them the consistency and showing them the dedication that you have in yourself. It's still, imprints on them that like, okay, like, yes, this sucks right now. But, if I'm doing what MJ and dad are doing, then, if I keep grinding, if I keep pushing, then, somewhere, someday, the light bulb is gonna go off, or, the switch is gonna go, whatever, and I will be able to achieve my dreams and goals just like they did. Especially with Cole with football. Because I remember when Cole first started football, and he would get so frustrated at practice, and he'd be, crying and upset. And like, now look at him. Like, that kid is a beast. And if he just continues to push himself a little bit harder at every practice or every Saturday game, like he can go wherever the world wants to take him. Same thing with Levi. Like, he's seeing now that like dedication and effort and consistency will, one, be able to keep him to have a cell phone, because then he won't be grounded as much anymore. But two, like, he starts to realize that, like, okay, schoolwork doesn't suck as much as I thought it did. I just need a better way to learn it so that I can achieve my goals. I can get on the track team. I can, try out for soccer. I can do this, that, and the third. I can spend time with my dad playing video games, little things like that. So,
Yeah, okay. Again, you stole the word. That's a follow up question, but you answer them without me even asking them.
it's almost like I know you.
Yeah, maybe just a little bit, but that's all stuff I think about too. And because it's it's like legacy isn't built in a day. I believe it's built in the everyday actions that you take, right? The everyday being consistent, having that discipline, right? That's what that's how you build your legacy. And that's what I want for our listeners out there, right? Because I want them to build something that outlives the moment.
Yeah. And two, like, sorry to, go back real quick, but with legacy, it's not just about the things that you say and do. Sometimes it's like it's the things that you don't say or do. Like we were talking about earlier, being a successful person in any, business or industry, especially right now with the way that the world is going. When you have people like spitting in your face for you trying to be a better person, do better things for your community, to do better things for your family. And, like, you want to retaliate, you want to say something back, you want to physically, potentially physically do something back to them. But like your kids are watching that too, so sometimes it's the things that you don't say or you don't do that they're also looking at that helps build that legacy also. Because then they're like, okay, well, I don't have to react emotionally because they told me they didn't like my tennis shoes, or, I had on a Giants jersey instead of a Golden State Warrior jersey, or whatever, or they didn't like me because my hair is too curly and my dad's white, my dad's black and my mom's white, things like that. So sometimes it's like your children seeing how you don't react and control yourself also builds onto that legacy. I just wanted to add that in.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And before we get up out of here, I just want everybody to know that elevation isn't a moment, it's a mindset. It's how you dream, how you plan, you think, and how you move. And here's the challenge for the rest of the week. Write down your dream, break it down into one actionable step, and then speak life over it every single day. And remember what MJ said: positive thoughts produce positive results, because how you think will determine how you rise.
Yeah, and just continue to surround yourself with people who feed into the energy that you need. You might not always like what they have to say, but sometimes you have to hear it. And don't be afraid to let go of the past. It happened. There's nothing you can do. All you can do is move on from it.
Learn from it and grow.
That's right.
And I want to leave everybody with this quote by Franklin D. Roosevelt: the only limit to our realization of tomorrow will be our doubts of today. Until then, take care of yourself, and remember, no matter what you're going through or the challenges you're facing, your roots are stronger than you think. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.